welcome back to episode 2, video 2 of Goblin Tuesday DM Tips, or DM Tips with Goblin Tuesday, with me, Jim, your DM here at Goblin Tuesday. This next question, discussion, is one that, let's do that over again, because I spin my mic around. Whoops. Walrus hands. No, this next discussion is one that is heavily argued, especially on a lot of social media. And it's one that I often disagree with many of the takes of DMs that are big on social media. Now, there are some who agree with me. Don't get me wrong, but I do see a lot where they're just like, no. But it's discussing campaign difficulty. Now, this again is something that is specific to your table, okay? Not everybody's going to do this, and I feel like I have to constantly reiterate this by saying just because I say things doesn't mean I'm saying the way you do things is wrong. I am not saying that, okay? Everybody plays differently. There's no wrong way to play D&D, okay? I need to say that. I need to start by saying no wrong way to play D&D. If you disagree with how I do things, that's okay. Just like I might disagree with how you do things. That doesn't mean I'm saying that you're fucking wrong. But campaign difficulty is going to be a topic of discussion that you'll see a lot of. Many people, many DMs, or many people in the TTRPG spectrum community believe that the main thing about playing TTRPGs is having fun. And that's 100% true. That is the biggest focus, is having fun. So how you set your campaign difficulty is going to be solely based on how your players like to have fun. Now, some players are going to say that they are only having fun if they are absolutely decimating every single bad guy that they fight. Every single boss is like 1 or 2 shot killed, stuff like that. And if that's how you need to run your games, I'm sorry, but that's how you need to run your games. Now, for me, and here at Goblin Tuesday, we, yes, believe that having fun is very, very high on the list. But we also believe just as high up on that list is telling a story. That's why we play TTRPGs, because we want to tell a story. We want to collaborate with our friends and our players and tell a story, okay? That's what we're doing. Now, in order to tell a story, a good story, we believe at Goblin Tuesday that telling a story requires an understanding between the DM, the players, and the world. This is not a video game. When we play TTRPGs, players sometimes often think that, oh, it's just a video game. We're the heroes. If we die, we just get to come back and we're not gonna die. And I do not agree with that. If that's the experience you want, go and play a video game, or go and play like a one-shot where you're just the hero and you can kill everything. Because I'm perfectly fine with that in one-shots. In one-shots or short little games, go crazy, do whatever you want. But in campaigns that are lasting 20+ sessions, I'm not a fan of that. I believe that players need to understand, and this needs to be discussed in session zeros, that death for your character is always on the table. Now, does this mean I'm going to be trying to actively kill the players? No. I understand that it is not DM versus players. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is that in a world, we are playing fantasy characters. We are taking on the role of this character in a world of our creation or whatever. And we, as DMs, have to enforce the fact that this is a real world that you're going into, okay? This is a real world with real consequences and real stakes. Enforce the fact that your choices and your decisions have consequences, whether good or bad. And I think that's something that is often lost on a lot of DMs and a lot of players, where they only expect their decisions to be rewarded and never penalized. If you fuck around, you should find out. It's not just, oh, nope, nothing bad happens when you did that really horrible thing. That's okay. But here's all the good things that happen. We don't like that, because then you have the players going around thinking that they are literal gods who can do anything that they want and everything is perfect, right? So to plan a campaign difficulty, you have to first, as I mentioned, figure out what your players are looking for. You should already have that idea. Now, you don't want to run your players through a gauntlet of just never ending unwinnable fights. You never want that. But much like in video games, we can talk about video games. In some video games that are open world, you'll be exploring areas and you'll maybe get to an area and one of the enemies that you see has that like skull icon next to their head, right? Where the game is literally telling you, hey, these are very, very powerful enemies. You might not want to fuck around with them, right? In D&D, it seems that, or TTRPGs in general, not just D&D, it seems that players always expect encounters to be perfectly balanced for them, which in a real living world is kind of weird. Like, don't worry, every single encounter in this level 1 to level 20 campaign that you fight is like perfectly built for a party of 4 adventurers. It's crazy. That bad guy was like, you know what? I could bring my whole army, but I'm only fighting against 4 people. So let's only bring 6 people. That way they can win. And I'm not a fan of that ideology. Now, the same goes in the opposite direction. I'm not just saying, oh, you need to overload your encounters. I'm also saying there are encounters that you need to underload. Because you want to have, it's got to be a seesaw. You never want it to be stuck here in the middle, because then that gets boring. And if you have power players in your campaign, they're going to be wiping the floor with these encounters. So you want to have this upsy-dowsy type thing, because it gives the players that understanding of it is a real world. You are going to have encounters where the players absolutely decimate them. Not that it's an easy encounter, but one that they're rolling great, the enemies are rolling bad, they're failing their saves, they're just killing everything, and they're doing great on it. There are going to be other ones that are going to be a good back and forth between bad guys, good guys. And then there should be those encounters. You need to have those encounters that are honestly pushing your players to the point of, should we stay here and fight? Should we flee? having a fight once in a while like that truly pushes a party is going to add a whole different element of narrative gameplay in regards to your party realizing, oh, we are not strong enough to deal with this thing. Maybe we need to do something to get stronger, level up. Maybe we need new items. Maybe we need something to get stronger. Let's get out of this now, survive, realize that we aren't immortal gods that can just wipe the floor with every single encounter and come back stronger when we can do that. Because that's a huge thing for me. Additionally, I am not a fan. I've seen so many videos here on TikTok when I first started getting into D&D a couple years ago of DMs talking about like, oh my God, I spent months and months creating this encounter all for my players to one-shot the boss. And I thought to myself, who wants to do that? Is that fun for the players? Is that fun for the DM? Now, this can definitely go back to depending on the type of players that you have. If you have min-maxers, they're gonna love that shit. If you've got people who that's their focus is combat, they will love that. However, if you've got a boss and you've got a player that is coming in and one-shotting people, one, they're taking away from other players. Other players aren't going to be able to experience that combat. You have, and I say this from personal experience. The first game that I ever ran, I had a split table. I had 3 people at this table who were ridiculously experienced in D&D. They knew how to play the character. They've been playing since 3.5. Obviously, I'm not old enough to really have all of those other editions. So 3.5, 3rd edition are like the big ones. So I've had people who've been playing since 3.5. They know how the game works. They've studied the rule book. They know the ins and outs of everything. So they, not that they were min-maxers, but they knew how to do what they needed to do to be effective. And then on the other side of the table, I had people who were playing in their first ever campaign, built a character for silliness, not silliness of like ha ha ha, but they were not super effective in combat, as that was part of the character. They were more of a peaceful character who they didn't have a lot of spells. They were playing a warlock that played more or had more spells and stuff that were fun related rather than I'm going to deal a lot of damage related. Now you might say, well, that's their fault. No, we're never going to judge people on how they want to have fun. But it became evident to me that it was starting to become top heavy in these encounters where these 3 guys who rolled very, very well usually in most encounters would be on the top of the order in the initiative. And they're dealing 50 points of damage every single turn each. And these other 3 people who were not that experienced were rolling horrible and also didn't have great stats. They were at the end of the encounter. So by the time their turn came around, either A, creatures were already dead, so they didn't get to do anything, or B, everything was kind of out of their hands in regards to like, oh, we got to do 4 damage. And it's something that is often, it sucks for those players. While they might not care that much about combat, you still want to be able to participate and contribute. And when you have things that are going on that the combat is over in 1 or 2 turns, those other players aren't really going to have the chance to experience it. And additionally, you run into the problem that is a mental thing, I think, in regards to it goes into the player's head. If you keep on having encounters that your players are able to 1 or 2 shot, the players will then think that they can literally fight and kill anything because there are no stakes. If I'm able to walk into any room and just absolutely kill everything, I can do anything that I want and there is nothing stopping me. And then you've got some of those players who will get that in their head, and then that will shape how they play the rest of the campaign. So that's why you have to have those situations of balance where, okay, you guys can one-shot this party, but this other one, they might one-shot you. So you've got to be able to keep your players on a seesaw, like I mentioned earlier. It's got to be a seesaw. And how you do that is ultimately up to you. You know, you can always throw bigger monsters at them. I'm a bigger fan of throwing more monsters rather than just going bigger. I like to throw more. And instead of having your encounters where it's one thing, it's 4 things for 4 players type of thing. But yeah, campaign difficulty is heavily based on the experience that you want your players to have and the experience that the players want to have. And this is all stuff that should be discussed in session 0. I'm a very, very big proponent of session 0s to discuss that shit. Anybody who's coming into a Goblin Tuesday run game understands that, look, this is a living world. If you choose not to deal with something, bad things might happen. Good things might also happen, but bad things might happen. It's not Skyrim where you can go into this world, find out what the big bad evil guy is, this big old dragon, and then proceed to fuck off, do every single other side quest in the world, and that dragon is still just sitting there waiting for you. It's not how D&D should work, in my opinion. So add stakes to your game. Make sure that the players understand that their decisions and choices matter. Give them two choices. Hey, go and help this town that is dealing with this thing, or go and help this other town that is dealing with this thing. Okay, you guys chose to go and save this town. Great. Now this town, something bad happened because you didn't go there, which is okay. The players should not have this idea in their head that they are literal gods and superheroes that can do everything and can save everything. Because again, as I mentioned in my last video, people will also often talk about player agency and stuff like that. By not having consequences in your world, you are effectively taking away player agency, because no matter what they do, nothing bad will happen because they're the heroes. And I'm not a big fan of that. So add consequences, add harder encounters, not constantly. You don't always want to have every single encounter be deadly, but you do want to have a sprinkling of deadly encounters in your game to keep your players on their toes and keep them grounded in the real stakes of the game, and make sure that they know that death is always a possibility for their character. That's about it, really. If you've got more questions about this, shoot me a message. Talk to me on the YouTube, which is this video will be on the Tiki-Talkie, whatever. Shoot me a message. Let's talk. I'm always up to learn more. As I've said before, and as this little message over here on the YouTube says, keep in mind, this is how I run my games. These opinions may not work for how you play or run your game, and that's okay. Everyone does things differently. Ultimately, do what works for you. These are just my opinions, and how maybe this new DM is just like, that's how I want to run my games. and hopefully I'm able to help that DM. You're already running your games how you want to run them. That's okay. And that's perfectly fine. We are constantly learning as DMs, or we should constantly be learning as DMs to get better at our craft, learning tips from other people and how they do things. I am constantly learning from the DMs that are around me and learning different tips and tricks and how to handle certain scenarios and how to do things. So that's why I'm doing this, because while I am learning from others, maybe you guys can learn something from me, maybe not, and that's okay. But we'll be back with another video. Who knows what we're going to talk about? But yeah, have a great one, guys. Deuces.